The Late Triassic world was, by any measure, one of the most contested periods in the history of animal life. Not because of the creatures that would one day be famous, not because of any dinosaur, but precisely because of what the dinosaurs had not yet become. The Esquigualasto and neighboring Carnian Age formations of South America, North America, and Central Europe tell a complex story. They are filled with bones of a remarkable diversity of creatures, most of which would vanish from the fossil record within a few million years. But during the time they lived, they were formidable. And the dinosaurs emerging among them occupied, at best, a secondary role in an ecosystem that had no particular interest in making space for them. Consider the Rauisuchians more carefully. These were archosaurs, the same broad group that includes both crocodilians and dinosaurs, but they had taken a completely different evolutionary path. Some species walked with a semi-erect posture that made them surprisingly fast and agile for their size. Postosuchus kirkpatricki, found in what is now Texas, was a creature of almost 4 meters in length, with a deep, narrow skull packed with laterally compressed, blade-like teeth. It was a dedicated meat-eater, and the evidence from bone bed suggests it was anything but rare. Saurosuchus galilei, found in the same Esquigualasto formation as the earliest dinosaurs, was even more imposing, potentially reaching 7 meters in length, with robust limbs and a skull designed for delivering tremendous bite force. It was, in the truest sense, a Triassic apex predator, and its presence in the same landscape as Herrerasaurus tells us something important. The early dinosaurs did not inherit an empty world. They had to survive in one already occupied by creatures far more powerful than themselves. There is a dry riverbed in late Triassic North America, a place where the channel has narrowed to a shallow trickle in the dry season, cutting between walls of pale mudstone layered with the compressed remains of conifers and ferns. Here, the morning light comes in low and raking, catching the dust stirred up by a group of Coelophysis baueri, slender, lightly built dinosaurs about 2 meters long, moving in loose association along the water's edge. Coelophysis was not yet the apex predator of any ecosystem it inhabited. Its bones were hollow, its body light, its teeth small and designed for snapping up small vertebrates, lizard-like creatures, small proto-mammals, fish near the water. It survived on agility. And it survived in numbers. There is evidence from the Ghost Ranch site in New Mexico, where hundreds of Coelophysis individuals were found in a single deposit, that these animals may have aggregated, at least seasonally, in large groups. Whether this was true social behavior or simply an overlap of ranges drawn to the same water source in dry conditions, we cannot say with certainty. Some specimens show evidence of consuming smaller members of their own species, cannibalism, opportunistic and unsentimental, as a survival strategy in lean times. The difficulty of being an early dinosaur was not simply a matter of competing with larger predators. It was also a matter of competing with an enormously successful herbivore guild that had no particular reason to make way. The Rhynchosaurs were extraordinarily abundant. In some formations they constitute the majority of fossil material, suggesting that, like wildebeest on the Serengeti, they were the dominant land animal by sheer biomass. Their beak-like jaws were specialized for the tough, dry vegetation that covered so much of Pangaea's interior. Aetosaurus ferratus, a smaller armored relative of the larger Aetosaur, moved through the undergrowth in groups, their interlocking armor plates offering effective protection against the predators of the age. The herbivorous dinosaurs of the Triassic were rare and relatively small. The few that existed, like Pisanosaurus murchii, one of the earliest known ornithischians, were modest, unspecialized animals, barely distinguishable in the fossil record from the background noise of small reptilian herbivores. They had no particular ecological advantage over the Rhynchosaurs. They were simply present, persisting, waiting. And yet the dinosaurs were accumulating something that wasn't immediately visible in the fossil record: metabolic and behavioral flexibility. Most Triassic reptiles were, to varying degrees, ectothermic. Their body temperature tracked the environment around them. They were active in warmth and slow in cold. The early dinosaurs, evidence increasingly suggests, were moving toward a different physiological model, one in which internal heat generation allowed them to remain active across a broader range of temperatures and conditions. Analysis of bone growth rings in early dinosaur fossils shows rapid, sustained growth more consistent with endothermy than with the seasonal stop-start growth patterns of typical reptiles. This gave them an advantage in the deep interior of Pangaea, where temperature swings between night and day could be dramatic and unforgiving. It is the kind of advantage that is invisible in a single season, but over hundreds of thousands of years, it compounds into something decisive. In the dry forests of the Triassic interior, Herrerasaurus moves at dawn, an hour when the Rauisuchians are still warming their blood against the rising sun, their metabolism sluggish from the night's cold. It moves through the pale light with a deliberate, unhurried pace, covering ground that a fully ectothermic rival could not have covered at this hour. A Rhynchosaur, separated from its group by the disorder of the previous day's movement, is too slow to react as the predator closes the distance in a final burst. The world is not yet the dinosaurs. But they are getting better at navigating it. The Aetosaur dominated low-browsing niches. The Phytosaurs patrolled rivers and lockshores with the patient efficiency of modern crocodilians, long snout, semi-aquatic, seemingly impossible to displace. Rauisuchians held the apex predator position across multiple continents. The mammal's ancestors, cynodonts and cynodonts, filled small, nocturnal niches with warm-blooded efficiency. Had the Triassic continued for another 20 or 30 million years in its existing form, there is no particular reason to think dinosaurs would have become anything more than a persistent and moderately successful minor lineage. The Triassic, however, was not going to continue in its existing form. The evening settles over the Triassic floodplain. A Rauisuchian moves slowly to a shaded overhang and becomes still, conserving heat against the coming night. Nearby, a group of Coelophysis remains active in the dusk, their hollow bones light, their metabolism burning steadily. They are small. They are outnumbered. They are not in charge of anything. But consider also the Aetosaur Staganolepis robertsoni, grazing at the forest edge as the light fades, its armored body a monument to one evolutionary strategy, complete and apparently successful. And consider the Phytosaur Rhynchosaurs, motionless in the shallows of a river bend, waiting with the cold patience of a crocodile for a prey animal to drink too close to the water's edge. These animals have no sense that they are temporary. They have been here for millions of years. They will be here, as far as any living thing can perceive, forever. The geological record knows differently. The rock layers above this moment are already waiting to be deposited, layers that will contain the bones of Rauisuchians and Aetosaur only as occasional, increasingly rare fossils, and then not at all. The world these animals occupy with such unquestioned authority will end, and it will end soon. The small bipedal figures at the forest margin keep moving. That, for now, is enough.